Well, hello, families. This is Mike Savage. I am your child's fifth grade teacher this year and trying something a little different here tonight. We are premiering this live at 6:30 p.m. on YouTube. So if you are watching this, I'm doing air quotes with you right now, live at 6:30. This is the first time this video is showing. Now, I am not with you live as I speak, but I am with you live over in the YouTube chat bar over on the right here. This is called YouTube Premiere. I've dabbled with this a little bit, and I think it's kind of a cool feature as we go. So as I go through the presentation, if you have a question about anything I'm sharing, feel free to share that question. If it's not too private, feel free to share that question over in the chat, and I would be more than happy to respond to that. In the event that the question is a little more private in nature, feel free to reach out to me via email, and I can certainly respond to you in due time with a more specific response to something maybe a little more private that you might not want to share. But yeah, this is a crazy year. I gotta just tell you as we get started, I can't thank you all enough. Really, I truly mean that. You guys have just been super patient with me as we get this year started. We're doing some things that we never thought we'd ever do as teachers, and of course your kids are doing something that they never dreamed they would do, and boy, will they have stories to share when they get a little older. So without any further ado, let's get into this a little bit. Hopefully I won't take too much of your time, but we'll try to make this as quick as possible. Hopefully get everyone in and out of here in about 20 minutes, maybe a little longer if I get a little long-winded, but I'm going to try not to. So here we go. So getting to know the classroom here, I kind of covered a little bit of this already, but one of the things that we did to start the year is we all wrote hopes and dreams. Each of us wrote a hope and dream, a dream that we have in our life. And if we were doing this in the classroom, I would have you go take a look at those hopes and dreams. But when you're done with this video or next time you see your kid, ask them what their hope and dream is. We took a lot of time in this, and I was really impressed with what the kids came up with. The hopes and dreams are a really cool way to get the year started, and it was really cool to process that with them. I'll talk about this a little bit later, but we use those hopes and dreams to actually create our classroom rules, and we'll talk about that in just a moment here. But a little bit about myself. This is the crew. This is me and my wife and kids. We have 6 kids, as you can see, going from left to right. We have Ben and Lauren. Then there's me, my wife on my right. On the right in the picture, I should say. And then her lap is our newest little guy. That's John Kerry. He was recently adopted from Haiti, as of course was Ben and Elise in the top right corner. And behind my wife is Sarah. She was adopted from Guatemala. And then over in front of Elise there is Chelsea, one of our biological twins. So we got a kind of little mixed bag, if you will, a multiracial family filled with adoption, a set of twins mixed up in there. And yeah, needless to say, we're pretty busy. You all are parents. You know this life gets a little nuts sometimes. We've always been a homeschool family. We didn't pick up homeschooling as a result of the pandemic. We have always been a homeschool family, so that has just been a real blessing in our lives to just be able to move along with our homeschooling in this. A little history on myself. I've been a first grade teacher for 11 years there, an assistant principal for 3, actually even dabbled with full-on principalship. Most recently was doing that up in the Osseo area schools. Did that for 6 years and decided to make a move back to the classroom. Truth be told, that family right there that you can see just is the most important thing to me. And I think Mr. Corsi could speak to this. It's a busy life being a lead principal of a building, and needed a little balance back in my life. So took the step back to rejoin the classroom ranks and found myself at Excelsior, and I am so thrilled to be here. Absolutely thrilled to be here. Just a great school, as you guys all know. So anyhow, some logistical notes. Great way to reach me is through email. I basically have that email screen up most of the day. Not that I'm sitting on email all day during the school day, but it's up. So I won't. It's hard to miss a message, but I'm not going to sit and respond often with the kids right there in the room. I don't think it's a good optic for the kiddos to see is their teacher on a computer responding to emails or doing whatnot. I like to be out and about in the classroom. So just know I'll likely have seen your email. and I'll respond to it as soon as I'm able. Also, Schoology is a feature that your kids are very familiar with. You can see a lot of updates there, and I'll often be sending home probably every other week is what we'll aim for, some sort of weekly or bi-weekly update via email as to what's going on in the classroom and things of that nature. We have take-home folders. These take-home folders are coming home every day. It's a small change that we made in 5th grade. This used to come home just on Wednesdays, but with just the amount of communication that we need and the lack of visibility I have with you guys as parents, definitely want to have some communication going home each night. In that folder, you'll see flyers from the school, completed work from your student, general updates as to what's going on at Excelsior. And then a planner also goes back and forth where students record kind of their assignments in that planner. And that's a good thing to check on your end. I like to make things as easy as possible for parents. And so a golden question you can always lean on if you want to kind of see what's going on at school is like, hey, so-and-so, whatever, however you refer to your kids, hey, show me your planner. And there should be a planner note that they wrote for the day. I personally check each and every planner before the end of the day to make sure they have something in there. So don't be afraid to ask them what's going on. iPads. We have iPads. Obviously, they're for educational purposes only. The kids and I had some good conversations about this. They're not supposed to download any apps on their iPad. All the apps that have been approved are already loaded onto their iPads, and I will help them load new apps onto their iPads as we introduce them through the 5th grade year. The bottom statement there, iPad insurance is available. So I've been here 2 years now. This is year 3. Every year it's come up, and not just with one family, probably 2, 3, 4 times a year. We inadvertently break a screen, and it's kind of a nice, it's not a fun conversation when we find out that they're not insured. So you might want to look into the insurance. These screens break pretty easily, even when we're trying to be careful with them. So just something to think about there. And we don't charge in the day for, charge in terms of plugging them into the wall charge. We don't charge them in the day, so we do ask the students to come with their iPads fully charged when they arrive at school. So if they can plug those in at home, that would be fantastic. Here's a daily schedule, cut and dry, very similar. I should say, one of the things that's unique about our classroom this year is, I'm not sure if you've realized this yet, but we are very fortunate. So I get to be your child's teacher, and I don't have a second pod. It's just me and the 13 kiddos in our classroom. So it's pretty awesome that we have such a small class and can really individualize attention for your kiddos. So I am not streaming into other classrooms, another pod. I am just standalone in my own pod with your kids, 13 kids. It's absolutely awesome. I mean, it really is awesome. Sure, we're teaching out of a chemistry lab. Sure, it's under a pandemic. But at the same time, there is some pretty cool things about this as well. And one of them is the arrangement that we all find ourselves in, one teacher to 13 kiddos. Can't complain about that. But here's our schedule. You can peruse that there. Nothing should really jump off the page at you. Just a typical schedule that we have for 5th grade. Per the pandemic and per changes that our Minnetonka schools have taken on, no instructional time is lost here. This is actually a very similar schedule that we operated from last year. So we're pretty proud to say that about what's going on at Excelsior, at Minnetonka schools. Every morning we do try to gather in a morning meeting. We got to do it pretty creatively as we're adhering to COVID-19 guidelines. By the way, I refer to those COVID-19 guidelines with your students as promises. As promises schools across Minnesota had to make to governments to get permission to open. And I found that it gives me a little latitude, it gives me a little credibility with the students. And I'm proud to say that they've done a really great job keeping their masks on, staying socially distant away from each other, sanitizing hands, washing hands, limiting space, such as 3 people in a bathroom at a time, things like that. They've done a really great job. And so morning meetings become a little challenging. We try to do those at our desks and just have some open conversations in our group. But we do a little greeting. Students get some time to share a little bit about themselves, and then we just kind of go over the agenda for the day. We do that every morning. I guess it's right about 8 o'clock in the morning, first thing. Specialists, I should have changed this. Right now, band is is under development right now. I believe band is coming, an orchestra, but we do have music, we have media, we have art, we have PE. Specialists from Excelsior Elementary School are visiting the high school and visiting with us, and it's pretty cool actually how we're doing that. Instead of a cycle schedule, we see specialists in weeks at a time period. So I'm not sure if you knew this, but like in the past years, on a Monday they might have media, on a Tuesday they might have art, on a Wednesday they might have music. Well, because of the special conditions that we're in, we actually, in my opinion, kind of see a nice improvement with this. So, for example, the first week of school, we had media for the entire week, which was kind of cool because the kids got to see our media teacher, Ms. Carcamo, day after day after day after day and build upon the learning from the previous day. Right now, we're in a PE week with Mr. Renland, so he visits us over at the high school and has PE every day with the kids. Truth be told, I haven't looked ahead to next week yet. Kind of doing things week by week, day by hour by, minute by minute. Kind of doing things minute by minute sometimes it feels like, but we're doing the best we can. But I do like the way we do have specialists set up over at the high school. Here's some things you might have heard your kid talk about in terms of some conversations that we've had as a fifth grade team over at the high school. We talk about the 5 points for fairness. The 5 points for fairness is a way we kind of talk about equity in the classroom. We talk about equity in the classroom in the sense of we want the classroom to be fair for all kids. And so if we can adhere to these 5 points, the 5 points are pretty simple things that you might even remember from elementary school, but eyes on the teacher, mouths closed, hands folded, feet still, and listen to the teacher. Those 5 things are what we call at Excelsior Elementary whole body listening, and we actually call that in our classroom the 5 points for fairness. And when we do those 5 things, what I always say to the kids is these aren't mean rules that we have. These aren't mean ways to hold a kid super strictly accountable, but they're ways that we can create a quiet, calm atmosphere so that everyone in the classroom, no matter how socially distant they are in the room, they can hear the instruction without any interference. And the students have really bought into that. 5 points for fairness is a way to create a fair environment for everyone. Talking about leadership, whether we like it or not, we're all leaders as fifth graders. We get the special privilege to be at the high school. We're going to be talking about that at great length. Really have that leadership focus. Just today, actually, I'm recording this for you on Tuesday night, airing it with you on Thursday. But recently in our classroom, we talked about this idea on Tuesday of whoever in the classroom makes the most mistakes are going to be the students that learn the most. And what I really believe in, parents, is risk taking, not being afraid to make mistakes and encouraging each other to continuously improve upon what we did yesterday. And so the only way we really do that is when we make mistakes. We think about our own lives, we think about our own careers, we think about our own personal lives, and it's those times that we made mistakes and then we go and fix those mistakes that we actually learn something new about life. We learn something new about other people. We learn something new about ourselves. And so we have those conversations in the classroom. Whoever's making the most mistakes is learning the most, and just really promoting that idea of it's all right to make mistakes. In fact, if we're not admitting we're making mistakes, we're probably not doing life the way we're supposed to be. So we really want to make sure we're embracing that and making that part of our classroom culture. We win as a team, we lose as a team, pretty self-explanatory. We work together. We want to be a team. As parents, one of the things I really want to have happen by the end of this year is if kids can somehow, some way leave this year saying, man, that was the best year ever. I just think that would be so cool. And I think we have the goods to do that. I really do, especially with your kiddos. Man, this is a really, really cool class, and super excited to help build a culture that hopefully by the end of the year, your kids are like, man, that was pretty awesome. That would just make my day. especially under these conditions. And that everything's a privilege. We're guests at the high school where it's a privilege to be there, really trying to send a message of respect in our classroom as well. Classroom rules. I talked about hopes and dreams when we started. Our classroom rules. The kids are very proud because, and it's not lip service, they truly created their own class rules. They basically walked through their hopes and dreams. Everybody shared their hope and dream, and then everybody came up with 3 to 5 things that they can do in their personal lives to make that hope and dream come true. We transferred that language to classroom language. So if you believe that these are things that you can do in your life that's going to help your personal goal, your personal hope and dream come true, what does that mean for you to do in the classroom? And then we theme those all out to come down with 3 rules. And our 3 rules in our classroom are: we are going to be kind and stay healthy. That's rule number 1, which I love. I love it. They wanted to get that COVID-19 in there. So we're going to be kind to each other and stay healthy. That's all rule 1. We are going to practice and work hard. That's rule number 2. And rule number 3 is we are going to be confident and study well. And I'm very proud of the rules they've came up with, and they truly believe that they made up their own, and they did. And those are how we're going to operate through this year together. Ask your kids what the rules are. I bet they can recite them to you. I bet they could. They've done a really nice job with that. Hopes and dreams. I kind of talked about this already, so I'll kind of skip through this here. But like it says here, building our class rules, I'm looking at the bottom bullet point here. Building our class rules from our hopes and dreams helps ensure that all students will take positive ownership of our class rules. We really want our students to just own the room, own their culture, own our team. And I think when they have that ownership, they just thrive. They just thrive. So I'm excited to keep building on that as we go through the year. We've talked about school-wide expectations. Even, these are Excelsior expectations that we're using at the high school. So we talked a lot about above-the-line behavior, below-the-line behavior, bottom-line behavior. And like I say down here, what is simply expected? That is, what are the positive behaviors that we should see every day that don't necessarily need overpraising? Things like walking quietly, saying our pleases and our thank yous, listening respectfully. I'm someone who doesn't believe that needs to be celebrated and praised out of abundance. It should be something that we should just expect as adults and students. And so we talk about that as expected behavior at our schools. So far, so good with that. So far, so good with that. The kids have done a fantastic job. Homework each night will be posted on Schoology. Homework is graded separately. Academic performance determines grades. What I mean by homework is graded separately. A student doesn't necessarily get all their homework assignment in, but are demonstrating exemplary achievement. They're graded separately. So there'll be a grade for homework completion, and then there'll be a grade for academic understanding, academic achievement, if you will. So those grades are actually separated out. Just a philosophical position there. Don't want to penalize kids on their grades by something that isn't directly related to the achievements. So be happy to talk to you more about that if you're interested, but everything is graded separately, and academic performance is what determines the grades. Homework is expected, but it's graded separately. It's not included in the main grade. Schoology, looking here for daily assignments. Like I said at the onset of this presentation, don't be afraid to ask your kiddo about what's in their planner. That actually, what I have found is that works well with parents. I think some parents are a little busy to get into Schoology, take the time to learn how it works. It can be a little cumbersome sometimes. The kids understand that. So that's why we lean on those planners still. That's an easy way for you just to check in on how your kid is doing. I should say just my personal piece as well here, with a father of 6 kids, and you guys too, parents of kids, just life gets busy, right? It just gets really, really busy. And I just want you to know as parents, I'm very sensitive to that. I'm very sensitive to that. And I also know that that we don't necessarily have time to check every little thing in school. Well, unless you do, I know I don't all the time. From the parent perspective, from the teacher perspective, I am very thorough. But from the parent perspective, I can cut a few corners from time to time, and I just want you to know that I have grace in that, and I understand. I understand. So sometimes just looking at that planner is a great way to stay on top of what's going on in school. NWEA testing. So we had NWEA testing earlier today. That would be Thursday. And then we also had it last week in math. We use those scores as nothing to necessarily be reported upon, but just to get some baseline measures. Here's what, on a side note, something interesting about the testing data. Schools across the nation kind of struggled at the end of the year last year with many schools shutting down, many schools going to distance learning and whatnot. And the general, if I just look at the class as an average, maybe I shouldn't say this out loud, but I was half expecting scores to really kind of plummet here in the fall based on just how things shook down in the spring. But I'll tell you, I was pretty impressed. I was pretty impressed with the scores on how the kids did. It was pretty good. Nothing was shocking in terms of like, whoa, we got some work to do. We always have work to do, but just pleasantly surprised with how well the kiddos scored. So that was great. And then we'll take more proper formal testing again in the spring, where we'll take NWEA in math and reading, and the MCA statewide assessments in science as well in 5th grade, included with math and reading. But we'll save all that fun for later in the spring. But we have a busy spring when it comes to testing. Here's your conference dates. You'll have more information as these come, and we'll figure out the way to do this. Likely they'll be done via Google Meet and things like that. But fall conferences are going to be October 22nd and October 23rd. Spring conferences will be on March 4th and March 5th. And of course, anytime you want to chat, reach out and we can set something up. I think you'll find that I'm a pretty reasonable guy, and I'm very open to finding ways to meet outside of conference time, whether it's a phone call, email, text message, or Google Meet. We can even do something like that. I don't have any problem trying to set something up with you guys there. So just reach out and let me know if you want to chat. Real quick on some of the curricular pieces, we have a writer's workshop in our classroom. We're going to be talking about descriptive, narrative, expository, persuasive writing, problem and solution writing. We have a writing process. Our curriculum is called Being a Writer. All you teachers out there, maybe you've heard of that curriculum. And then we do a grammar through a program called Mountain Language, which is a weekly exercise the kiddos go through. You might have seen them working on it. So we're going to really focus a lot of our Mountain Language on our e-learning days on Wednesday. But that's how writing basically looks. Our math, we use a curriculum called Everyday Math from the University of Chicago. And then we do group our kiddos basically in two groups, 5th grade standard mathematics and then accelerated mathematics. And then we don't really group up much more at that point. Basically, we do large group instruction with guided math instruction. Formative and summative assessment approaches are used. And then we also use something called IXL. It's a great little personalized math tutorial program that is really handy. And hopefully in the next couple of weeks, we'll get that all fired up with usernames and passwords. And basically kiddos take diagnostic time on there where they're just given random grade level samplings of math questions. And then IXL runs diagnostic tests, finds out what skills kiddos are pretty strong on, which ones they're struggling with, and which ones they're kind of in the middle on, and will create an individualized program for them to work through based on their mathematical needs. So that's a pretty slick program. IXL, stay tuned for that. Maybe you already know about it. We've been using that at Excelsior now for at least 3 years. It's a good program. Language arts, we use a curriculum called Making Meaning. Some of the things that we'll be focusing on: writing and speaking, key ideas and details, craft and structure, integration of knowledge and ideas. What does that all mean for parents? One of the things you might want us to keep up with your kiddo on is just asking them, did they read each night? They have a goal, a page goal each night. They all know those goals. It's another question you might want to ask them. Hey, what's your reading goal? I heard Mr. Savage says you guys have reading goals in your classroom, and they should be able to give you a page number for that goal, which should equate to about 30 minutes a night. So go ahead and ask them about that, and just leaning on some just good rock solid reading research, which basically says from Richard Allington, is one of my favorite reading gurus. Increased volumes of independent level reading leads to reading success. So when kiddos are reading regularly in texts that are at their independent reading levels, it's not a bad thing. In fact, it's a really, really good thing. So we want to take advantage of that. Social studies, we use a curriculum called History Alive. Here's some of the topics we talk about. U.S. history is the crux of it, from Native Americans to explorers. And then we wrap up the year. Oh, I love it. It's all about the Revolutionary War, and it is incredibly fascinating. We probably spend a good 2 months on it at the end of the year. It's really, really cool. And we have research projects along the way. But when we get into the Revolutionary War, it is really exciting. We have some really fun activities that we do with the students, and really rich conversations come out of that. Very excited to get to that. Here's what we're covering in science: pendulums and catapults, environments, simple machines, STEM, and a lot of STEM influence embedded in each of these units. We tackle science as part of our core curriculum at Excelsior Elementary as well. And health is a big unit. We have 1 unit per month, which culminates in the wonderful month of May. As you can see, that's when we tackle something called human growth and development. That's always a fun one, and it is what you think it is. Yes, and so I'll be sending home some preliminary paperwork for you to review and some special permissions to talk about some a little more sensitive matter. But that's always a fun one. How we'll do that in the middle of a pandemic with students is yet to be determined, but stay tuned. We will certainly cover that in a very family-friendly, family partnership sort of way. So that's always fun. Human growth and development with 5th graders, with 5th grade boys especially. A lot of fun. All right, here's grading. Basically, you guys know this, especially if you've been Minnetonka families for a while. We do a point scale: 4, 3, 2, 1, and zeros. Zeros, we never use a 0. So it's really a 4, 3, 2, and 1. 4 is above grade level. No, this is the part that's interesting, though. 2 and 3 are both grade level, and I always want to make a point to say that. 2s are not necessarily a bad thing. 2 basically means grade level with basic understanding of the concepts. 3 is you're at grade level. There's generally a fuller understanding of the concepts. And there's a small difference there. And so 2s and 3s are different, but what it isn't is 1 and 2 are below grade level, 3 and 4 are above grade level. It's actually 1 is below grade level, 2, 3, and 4 are at or above grade level. So a small difference there. So 2s, I guess what I'm saying is 2s aren't necessarily something to get too dejected about. And I do talk to the kids at length about that, because they do see a fair amount of 2s in their work, and I don't want them to think that that's anything below average. I always tell them, if you see a 1.5 or below, that's where you got to start asking yourself, did you do your best work? But 2s are nothing to necessarily get too distraught about. So, oh boy, it's a long time. I don't know how long that took me, but there you go. That's a wrap. Guys, I got to tell you, it's been a fantastic start to the year. I hope you hear the authenticity in my voice. I didn't know what to expect as we started this year. I didn't even know what to expect when we wrapped up spring. I bet I would have bet money that back in the spring when we wrapped up distance learning last year. I don't know what I was thinking, but I would have bet money that we would have been back in school and this would have been normal. And clearly we're not there. But like I said at the top, I'm just so grateful that you guys have just been so patient and supportive. Some of your kind comments mean a great deal to me. I've gotten a number of just nice emails and calls of encouragement, and Gall, it's really cool, and I want to toss it right back at you because I know it's tough right now on many fronts. Just so much stress in our world today, from COVID-19 to politics to Gall, fill in the blank. You guys know what I'm talking about. There's a lot going on, and I feel like my goal is just to be there for your kids and provide them the best possible education that I can as their fifth grade teacher. So, yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to put them over in the chat. And if you have other questions, feel free to follow up with me and we can do so. But thanks for joining us this evening. And I hope you thought this was kind of cool doing it as a live premiere here on YouTube. It is also going to be archived. So for families and individuals that couldn't make it here tonight, they can watch it at any time as well. All right, everybody, have a wonderful night. And hopefully we'll see you soon. All right, take care. Bye-bye.